Good day, great listeners. Welcome to Caring Heart, your number one disability talk show on Armed Forces Radio 107.7 FM, coming to you from Mogadishu Cantonment, Asokoro, Abuja. My name is Comrade Chris Abu, your regular host, and today we'll be delving into a very crucial topic. Why is it important to mainstream persons with disabilities in all programs, social interventions, and all sectors of our economy? This conversation is not just timely, it is very necessary, and we as we work towards building a just and inclusive society, we must begin to ask, why are persons with disabilities in the larger scheme of things? Are they being considered when we roll out health programs, educational reforms, employment schemes, agricultural interventions, or poverty alleviations? Sadly, in many cases, the answer is no. So today we are going to unpack all these things and show you how why it's very important that persons with disabilities should be mainstream in all these programs in every sector of our economy. One is actually a principle of equality and inclusion. Mainstreaming persons with disabilities means ensuring that they are not left out. It means designing programs, policies, and services with which everyone should be considered. So, and again, it's all about including over 35 million Nigerians with one form of disability or the other. That is nearly 15% of our population. And you know that inclusion is a matter of right, but not a favor. And disability is not inability. But when systems are not accessible, whether it is building without ramps or programs, organizing programs without sign language interpretations, or organizing poverty alleviation programs without disability friendly criteria. So when you do so, you're actually excluding a very large segment of our population from participating in the nation building. So that is how it is. Secondly, is breaking the cycle of poverty and dependency. Many persons with disabilities actually face systemic exclusion, which keeps them in cycle of poverty. And by mainstreaming them into employment programs, skill development programs, or entrepreneurship initiatives, then we'll begin to empower them to live independent life and contribute to our economy. So think about this. If a woman with a disability is trained, to be a tailor or ICT person or even a fashion designer, and maybe the person is supported with just a small grant, and that will help her to run her own business. So she will participate in also training others and even support her family. That's how great the impact will be. So again, it's all about fulfilling our national and international commitment. Nigeria is signatory to a lot of treaties. So like, and we also have law and policies that support inclusion of persons with disabilities, like the Discrimination Against Persons with Disabilities Prohibition Act, that mandates that persons with disabilities must be included in all sectors. And again, Nigeria is also a signatory to United Nations Convention on the Right of Persons with Disabilities, and even the African Charter on the Right of Persons with Disabilities is also some of the treaties that Nigeria is actually signatory to. So mainstreaming persons with disabilities is actually a matter of Nigeria meeting up with their obligations of societal uh, necessity of inclusion of persons with disabilities. Number four is actually enhancing programs, enhancing program efficiency or impact. Like for example, when we have a social intervention program that is more effective, which is actually very inclusive, the one that will take care of the needs and the peculiarities of persons with disabilities, we'll begin to now find out a situation that issues of persons with disabilities will be properly taken care of. For example, during the COVID-19 pandemic, Many persons with disabilities could not even access some of the palliative that were provided by government. And the reason is simple, because government has not been deliberate or intentional in trying to capture the needs of persons with disabilities. And that is why most of these intervention programs that government always come up with, persons with disabilities will not be beneficiaries of all these policies. So it's also very important that we make sure that we always include persons with disability. And remember, whenever a program is not well, it doesn't capture the needs of persons with disabilities, to me, it's already a failed program. Because if it cannot reach the vulnerable segment of our population that is actually meant to serve, and when you talk about the vulnerable segment of the population, persons with disabilities are the largest in number. So when an intervention program did not really capture them, it's obvious that that program has actually failed. So persons with disability should be involved when we are doing the planning, the design, and even in the intervention of these intervention programs. That is the only way those programs can be said to be more responsive and more effective and more impactful. Then the fifth part of it is that promoting dignity and breaking stereotypes. Inclusion is in every program, or in every of our programs, maybe from politics to sports, from education to media, can actually help to dismantle the harmful narrative that people have about persons with disabilities, seeing them as burden, or are those who, maybe like object of pity. So it will help for us to now begin to see the abilities and talents and the potentials of persons with disabilities. So it's all about we affirming their humanity and their dignity. So that is also one another way that we should make sure that when we talk about um, programs and every other interventions or different sectors, we must make sure that we design policies that will make sure that we include persons with disabilities. It's also is very, very important. So what can we do? What we can do is very simple, because some of these things have been tested in several other countries. They have actually done some of these things that I'm actually talking about, and they have been able to achieve a whole lot of results. They've made a whole lot of impact. So as a country, the policy makers, for example, the development partners, several communities, individuals, we must have to make sure that in everything that we do, we must ensure that accessibility of making it accessibility for persons with disabilities must be taken into consideration. Must have to ensure that every building, every public facilities, public infrastructure, government buildings, our roads, our bridges, our pedestrian bridges, every facility that we can talk about. When we go to the airport, when we go to the railways, every one of them must be made accessible for persons with disabilities. That is one thing that policymakers must always think about. If you're a development partner, you want to sponsor some of public infrastructures, make sure that the needs of persons with disabilities are taken care of. It's very, very important. That's very, very important. So again, we need to include persons with disabilities in the decision-making space. And that is one of the reasons I keep saying that persons with disabilities must have to be part of governance in Nigeria. Because by the time they are part of governance in Nigeria, we begin to now see a situation that they will make decisions, on issues that concerns them, or any program that government is throwing up. They should be able to actually say that these are ways that it can actually reach the needs of persons with disabilities. That's one of the ways that we can address these issues. So that because they say that this saying that normally say that you don't shave a man's head in his absence. So you actually need to shave a man's head when he's there. So discussing or trying to mainstream persons with disabilities when they are not there to make input, you end up not getting their needs the way you should capture them. And that is why most times issues of persons with disabilities is always an afterthought. When government must have concluded everything that they are doing in many of their programs, that is the time they will begin to now find out that the needs of persons with disabilities are not really taken care of. That is one of the reasons that we've not been able to see majority of the programs that we've thrown up, the needs of persons with disabilities have not been really be captured. So just like I said before, whenever there is a program, whether you call it palliative, social intervention program, whatever program that government is throwing up, and the persons with disabilities are not captured, what it means is that the vulnerable groups or the vulnerable segment of our population that that particular intervention is meant to serve are not really captured, because persons with disabilities are the largest number when it comes to the vulnerable group. So, so it's better we have this in mind. Then we need to come up with what we call disability inclusive budgeting, whereby every budget when government is running out their budget, they must have to make sure that that budget must always have the component that will take care of issues of persons with disabilities. Because I keep saying it that disability issues are cross-cutting issues. It affect every aspect of our sector. So for that reason, in any sector, you must have to also design your budget in a way that that budget must have disability component that will actually take care of issues of persons with disabilities. Let me give you an example that you're setting up a program, an agency is setting up a program, and on that particular program, you have some events, and some of those events, you did not make budget of sign language interpreters that will actually make sure that that event must have sign language interpretation attached to it. Because by the time it doesn't really have sign language interpretation, what it means that a large number of deaf persons in Nigeria will not follow whatever you're putting out. Because we'll continue to see a lot of jingles of different government establishments, and those jingles go out without sign language interpretation attached to them. So what it means that you have excluded a large number of persons who should also have access to your information. And that is exactly what is going on. And by the time you approach about it, you actually say that you don't have budget for sign language interpretation. So you have to make sure that during your own budgeting, make sure have input of persons with disabilities to make sure that all your programs will have that component, that will take care of persons with disabilities. Again, you need to train service providers on disability rights and inclusion. In fact, every across board in all the staff need to actually have an idea of what disability inclusion is all about. That will actually make give you that kind of idea on how to actually provide services for persons with disabilities. And one of the things I keep telling people is that we need to make sure that in most of our organizational policy, we develop disability components of it. That will give you an insight on how you can actually make your services, your products and services more accessible for persons with disabilities. Then another thing is that, because the what I want to talk about now is has to do with planning. We need to actually collect disaggregated data of persons with disabilities, understanding persons with disability based on those who are blind persons, those who are persons with physical disabilities, those who are deaf persons. How many of them are women? How many of them are children? How many of them are men? Men. So all these things need to be taken care of, because it will help in when we are talking about plan, when we're talking about development plan. And this is one of the reasons why we've not been able to plan properly for persons with disabilities. The other time we actually wanted to have census, and we are so happy that that census we we are looking forward for that census, and unfortunately it didn't happen, but we're still looking forward that it's going to happen. And we believe that by the time that census happen, we are going to apply what we call Washington Group set of questions that will help to actually get the actual number of persons with disabilities in Nigeria, and again be able to now have disaggregated data of persons with disabilities in Nigeria in order to help us understand the needs of persons with disabilities. Another one again is we need to actually change our mindset. Our mindset about disability, because we have a lot of stereotypes. Now we have a lot of narratives about persons with disability. We see persons with disabilities are burden, those who have nothing to offer to the society. We see them as failure. We see them as those who should be pitied. At times we even see persons with disabilities as those who are sick. And for that reason, we actually give them opportunity. So that is also one big problem. So the inclusion we are talking about begins with you and me. So when we talk about inclusion, we are not just talking about only those in the government or only those occupying several offices. It's about every one of us, because whoever that is occupying any particular office is a product of the society. So if everyone within the society begin to change their mindset about disability, believe me, we will begin to now find a situation that this inclusion that we are talking about will no longer be a problem. But because we continue to have a society that people most at times continue to stereotype against persons with disabilities. So I will go on the short break, and when I come back, I will open the phone lines for you to also be part of this particular discussion. You're welcome back to Caring Heart on Emphasis Radio. Caring Heart is a program where we discuss the rights and privileges of persons with disabilities. And my name is Comrade Chris Abo, your regular host. And today we'll be discussing why it is important to mainstream persons with disabilities in all programs, social interventions, and all sectors of our economy. And we have been able to talk about, unpack why it's very important to do so. When we point out about 5 points on why it's important, and again, or what we should do in order to ensure that we have an environment that will actually make it more accessible for persons with disability, to actually benefit in programs and services within the society. And now you want to open the phone line so that you can also be part of our discussion. You can call us on 070 72 42 62 58. 070 72 42 62 58. Let me repeat it once again. 070 72 42 62 58. You can call us to make your own contribution on what we are discussing today. So, if you have any questions to ask, you're free to ask such questions. Hello. Hello, good afternoon. Your name and where you're calling from? What is your name? Okay, go on and make your contribution.
My contribution is that I'm also a disability.
Okay.
Yes, I don't know that the
Hello.
person
Hello, your voice is breaking, but I don't know. Can you shift a little, maybe to the network will be better?
can hear me now.
I think it's better now.
Yes, I'm also a disability.
Okay.
So how can I be a part of the program?
How can you be part of the program?
Yes.
Okay. Let's get your number, then we can call you.
Okay, this is my number.
So just stay on the line. Let me get your number.
Okay.
All right. So I'll give you a call after the program. So you can call us on. Okay, we have another caller. Hello, your name and where you're calling from. Good afternoon. Your name and where you're calling from. Can you speak up?
Oh, my name is I'm calling from FCC.
Okay. So
I was trying to for the program based on what we are discussing if the federal government and actions that it will help your livelihood. A lot of other things are done in line down with not up to date because of the financial issues and the opportunity government to say we are at work for the business. Say, we are disability, you cannot have position. Then patient section, you can create it. Okay, this patient is disability, but this is the stage you have. You can find the process of the people affected.
okay. Hello.
I'm telling you,
All right. Can you repeat that your question again?
question is the other specialist. I a lot of handicapped people in terms of employment or in first aspect. So you say, you have disability and you cannot handle such things. If you can create
Okay.
the say, okay, the person has the will give him a job or a work in a specialist aspect, it will be good.
Okay. 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 I get you now. So let me attempt to answer your question.
And I want to say an example where during the time I applied for the MBA
Okay.
and I did everything, but my name was not called the discovered I have this not I say, even financial access somebody with disability.
I think you actually applied and they didn't did they reject you based on you? Did they cite that is because of your disability? That's why they didn't consider you? Hello? I think I've lost him. Right. So you can still call us on 07072426258. You know. So talking about if actually why hello? Hello?
Nothing comment. Nothing comment.
Good afternoon.
Nothing comment.
Good afternoon. Your name and where you're calling from?
My name is James. I'm calling from Marala.
Okay.
Yes. I don't know, this is a very good question, but to me, as Nigeria is concerned, I say that everybody is disability because there is one challenge or the other that we have to see in this country that sometimes we think that is. No one was in Canada many years ago. Every 3 months you see people with disability, the mad people, the sick people, they go to dance, they go to collect their GST. This is the money that these people collect from the taxes from goods that they sell that have 0% that they share to everybody every 3 months. Not when they also have another benefit that they get. They have free medical, they go to hospital on their own. But here in our country, there are a lot of people that don't have a disability. You don't know somebody somewhere, you don't get a job. So everybody in India is on disability. So Nigeria still is concerned. And I remember there is a money that budget that is from federal government that goes to everything, about 400 million, which that money is meant for to support the citizens of every to have a challenge. But I don't know how they access that money. And I don't know if people know about that money. It's about 400 million to each state. It's in the budget. That is called the citizen support for the state.
Yeah.
So if you have a way, please, you can let me know, sir. Thank you, sir.
It's all right. Actually, I am not aware of such a fund, but I'm not still saying that what you're saying is not correct. It could be because I am aware that one way or the other, the budget will actually target one thing or the other, and a lot of budget have actually been put out there for to take care of the vulnerable group, including persons with disabilities. And that's one of the reasons why we continue to hammer on this program that these issues need to actually be looked into, and that's one of the reasons why we continue to do what we are doing. And I wouldn't be able to take any more calls again today because my time is far gone. So I must have to thank every one of you out there who are part of our program today, all those that called. I must have to appreciate you because if you're not there, we shouldn't be here. So thank you for always being there and supporting Caring Heart. So just like we keep saying, we cannot talk about national development while excluding a significant portion of our population who are persons with disabilities. Mainstreaming persons with disabilities is not just about fairness, it's about progress, justice, and sustainability. So let's build a Nigeria where no one will be left behind. So thank you for listening to Caring Heart, your number one disability talk show on Armed Forces Radio. I remain Comrade Chris Abu. Join me next week, same time, same station, for another impactful episode. Till then, stay informed, stay inclusive, and keep your society more there is more inclusive for everyone, including persons with disabilities. Bye for now.